Did you know Coca-Cola was invented by a Confederate addict trying to cure himself with cocaine and wine? Did you know that the world's most iconic soft drink, Coca-Cola, was invented by a wounded Confederate colonel who got addicted to morphine and tried to cure himself with cocaine, wine, and caffeine? That's right. Long before it became the bubbly drink in red cans, Coca-Cola was a wild medical concoction cooked up by a desperate man in post-Civil War Georgia. He wasn't trying to start a soda empire, he was just trying to survive, and in doing so, created one of the most recognizable brands on Earth. Today, we're diving into the unbelievable origin story of Coca-Cola, from war wounds and drug addiction, to secret ingredients, moral panics, and global domination during World War II. So just before we dive in, just to let you know that we're seeing that 55% of our viewers who watch our channel regularly have not subscribed to us yet, so we're asking you a favor. Before we start our deep dive, if you like us and want to support us, there's a free and simple way to do that. Just hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out when we put out new videos. We assure you that we will commit to bringing you the best videos each week. We also crave your feedback and suggestions as we aim to give you the best content possible. And now, to our feature presentation. Our story begins not in a soda fountain, but on a battlefield. John Stith Pemberton was born in 1831 in Knoxville, Georgia. By trade, he was a trained pharmacist, well-versed in chemistry and medicinal compounds. But like many Southern men of his time, he joined the Confederate Army during the Civil War. By 1865, as the war drew to a bloody close, Pemberton found himself fighting in the Battle of Columbus, widely considered one of the last major engagements of the Civil War. During this battle, he suffered a severe saber wound to the chest, and that wound would change his life forever. To manage the excruciating pain, doctors gave him morphine, the go-to painkiller of the era. It worked, but it came at a terrible price. Like thousands of other Civil War veterans, Pemberton became hopelessly addicted to morphine. What began as medical necessity quickly spiraled into a debilitating dependency. But Pemberton wasn't just a victim, he was also a chemist. And he had a plan. In the decades following the Civil War, John Pemberton returned to civilian life in Atlanta. There, he began experimenting with different chemical mixtures in the hope of curing his addiction. One of the most famous, or infamous, of these creations was Pemberton's French wine coca. Yes, you heard that right, wine and cocaine. Inspired by a European tonic called Vin Mariani, a Bordeaux wine infused with coca leaves, Pemberton created his own version using red wine, coca leaf extract, which contains cocaine, cola nut for caffeine, and a range of other flavorings. It was marketed as a nerve tonic, a stimulant, a cure for fatigue, headaches, and even impotence. It wasn't just a drink, it was a medicine. At least that's how it was sold in 1880s America. And here's the wild part. It worked, or at least it helped Pemberton manage his morphine cravings. Cocaine, after all, is a powerful stimulant. And combined with wine and caffeine, it created a euphoric buzz that took the edge off his opioid withdrawal. But this was just the beginning. The real turning point came not from Pemberton's laboratory, but from local laws. In 1886, a major problem landed on Pemberton's doorstep. The city of Atlanta passed temperance legislation banning the sale of alcoholic beverages. That meant French wine coca, his best-selling tonic, was now illegal. But Pemberton was undeterred. He reformulated the drink, removing the alcohol and replacing it with carbonated water, which was rapidly becoming popular at American soda fountains. He kept the cocaine, kept the caffeine, and added a generous helping of sugar to cover the bitter taste. And just like that, the new non-alcoholic version of his medicinal tonic was born. He called it Coca-Cola. It was still advertised as a health drink, promising to relieve fatigue, sharpen mental clarity, and soothe nerves. Pemberton described it as a delightful, invigorating drink and valuable brain tonic. Sales were modest at first, but Pemberton's health was failing, and he began selling off stakes in his formula to local businessmen, most notably to a man named Asa Griggs Candler, who would go on to turn Coca-Cola into a commercial juggernaut. Pemberton died in 1888, just 2 years after inventing Coca-Cola, never realizing the global empire he had accidentally created. But his bizarre concoction was just getting started. In the early 1900s, Coca-Cola was booming. Soda fountains were springing up in cities across the country, and Americans were drinking Coke by the gallon. But there was a problem: cocaine. While it was legal in the 1880s, by the early 20th century, public opinion had turned sharply against the drug. fueled in large part by sensationalist and racist media campaigns linking cocaine to violent crime among Black Americans. Politicians began calling for regulation, and Coca-Cola found itself in the crosshairs. So in 1903, under pressure, the Coca-Cola Company began the quiet removal of cocaine from its formula. The company didn't advertise this change. Instead, they continued using spent coca leaves that had the cocaine extracted from them, just enough to maintain the trademarked flavor, but without the active drug. By 1929, with the help of a pharmaceutical company, Coca-Cola perfected a decocainized coca leaf process that allowed them to legally keep the flavor while complying with the law. They didn't stop there. To compensate for the lost kick that cocaine once provided, Coca-Cola increased the sugar content, adding sweetness to keep customers coming back for more. That decision shaped the product we know today: sweet, fizzy, and legally safe. By the 1940s, Coca-Cola was already a household name in the US, but it was World War II that transformed it into a global phenomenon. When America entered the war in 1941, Coca-Cola's leadership made a bold promise. They would provide every US soldier with a bottle of Coca-Cola for just 5 cents anywhere in the world. It was a patriotic pledge that came at a steep cost. To fulfill it, Coca-Cola had to set up over 60 bottling plants near battlefronts, from Europe to the Pacific. But here's the genius. They didn't do it alone. The company worked hand in hand with the US government, which recognized the drink's morale-boosting power for troops. These bottling plants were often built using government resources, and the company was given priority access to sugar, machinery, and transportation, even during wartime shortages. To the average soldier, Coca-Cola wasn't just a drink. It was a taste of home. By the end of the war, not only had Coke maintained its domestic market, it had also infiltrated dozens of countries. The soldiers who drank it overseas kept demanding it after the war ended. And just like that, Coca-Cola became a symbol of American culture, a sugary ambassador of freedom, and the face of global capitalism. So what became of John Stith Pemberton, the man who started it all? He died broke, sick, and addicted to morphine in 1888, just 2 years after creating Coca-Cola. He never saw the rise of the brand, never made millions, never dreamed his drugstore experiment would become a staple in vending machines, movie theaters, and fast food chains around the world. There's a tragic irony to it all. He invented a drink to cure his addiction, only to create one of the world's most addictive products. He was a man searching for freedom from drugs and ended up building a sugar-fueled empire that still dominates global consumption today. Even today, Coca-Cola's formula remains a closely guarded secret. Its original blend of Coca and Cola has transformed over time, but the mystique and the market power remain. Coca-Cola didn't begin as a soft drink. It began as desperation, as chemistry, as a wounded Confederate's last-ditch effort to free himself from a deadly addiction. And yet, out of that chaos came one of the most successful commercial products in history. So next time you crack open a cold Coke, remember, you're not just drinking soda. You're sipping a strange brew of history, war, drugs, capitalism, and one man's struggle to save himself. If you found this story mind-blowing, share it with a friend. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more deep dives into the hidden stories behind everyday things. And let us know in the comments, what's the weirdest invention story you've ever heard? Until next time, stay curious, viewers.